Hi everyone, my name is Bethany and I am a garden educator for the Horticultural Society of New York. And today I am at Riverbank State Park at 145th Street and Riverside Drive at our Greenhouse and Education Center. Today we are going to learn all about squashes. A squash is botanically a fruit, not a vegetable. It is a part of the Cucurbitaceae family, or cucurbits for short, which are known for their long flowering vines and gourd-like fruits. The cucurbit family sort of sounds like cucumber, and cucumbers are a part of that plant family. But they are not considered a squash, but they are closely related to things like squashes, gourds, melons, and even pumpkins. There are 965 different species in the Cucurbitaceae family. Today we are going to mostly talk about pumpkins, but we will go over a few of those later. We are going to start off by talking about the leaves of the cucurbit family. The leaves on plants in the cucurbit family are very, very large and usually have little tiny spikes on them. They also have a unique modification called a tendril. A tendril is something that wraps around things so that it can connect to a structure and climb. In a garden, we usually set up a structure called a trellis to control where the squash plant may go and grow. Here, you are able to see a trellis. This is one that we have set up in our garden at Riverbank State Park, where our cucumbers have been growing this summer. If you take a look here, you can also see what the tendrils look like. On cucurbits is also very unique. In this plant family, the flowers are also very sensitive to weather. If it's too hot or too dry or too wet, flower may also wilt or not be viable for pollination. The weather conditions don't only impact the flower, but could also impact the pollinator itself, something like a bee or a butterfly or a bird. If the weather isn't right, that pollinator might not come out and do its job of pollination. So pollinators are super important. Their job is to move pollen from one flower to the other flower so that that pollen can fertilize the flower so that it can become a fruit. In this case, without pollination, our plant wouldn't actually produce things like pumpkins or cucumbers or melons. They would just stay as flowers. Of pollinators, a variety of insects can pollinate the squash plant, but it has co-evolved over time with the squash bee. Did you know that there are more bees than just honeybees? The squash bee is very important to the cucurbit family. This bee's life cycle matches the blooming patterns of the squash plant, making it its most effective pollinator. Alright, now that we know a little bit more about how the squash plant or the cucurbit plants grow, we are going to look at a couple of these squashes. So in front of me are a whole bunch of different species or varieties of pumpkins. Some of our most common ones are things like this orange pumpkin or this one here. Another one that has become more common over the years and more recently is the white pumpkin. And the white pumpkin actually grows exactly the same way that an orange pumpkin would grow. It's just that that variety produces the white skin. The inside of these two pumpkins look exactly the same. They are both orange and have lots of seeds and gooiness. And I actually have one that's all opened up right here. Oh yes, all those seeds. There's also pumpkins like this one that are blue on the outside. This is called a blue doll. And I love blue dolls for not only their shape and their cool color, but when you cut them open, the inside is actually orange. So it's this really awesome contrast of colors between the blue skin and the orange interior. We also have this Cinderella pumpkin on the end, and you guessed it, it gets its name because it resembles the pumpkin carriage that Cinderella moves in. And pumpkins come in all shapes, sizes, different colors, including these little mini pumpkins, which are super cute, and they can be really, really tiny, or sometimes they can be a little bit larger. And this one may not look like a pumpkin to you, but it is considered a squash. It grows the same way on those squash plants or the cucurbits that we talked about. This is a carnival squash, and so is this. And although they look very different, they are the same species. They just develop a variation of colors depending on how they're growing. Pumpkins all start as this little tiny seed, right? They take about 100 days to grow from a little seed into a big pumpkin like the ones that you see here. Pumpkins have a really interesting life cycle, and we as humans use pumpkins a lot around the fall. And so it's important that we plant our seed of our pumpkin early on in the spring and summer so that it has all that time that it needs in order to grow. Pumpkins can be used for various purposes. Sometimes we use pumpkins as decoration. You may have carved a jack-o'-lantern before, or maybe you have painted a pumpkin, right? We can also eat pumpkins, so if you've ever had pumpkin pie, or if you ever had any sort of pumpkin soup or squash, then you're eating something like a pumpkin. You can also eat the seeds, so if you dry the seeds and they are eaten, sometimes they're known as pepitas, so they're a great little salty snack, or you can sprinkle them on top of salads. Or you can also save the pumpkin seeds from your pumpkin and actually plant them to grow new pumpkins the next year. Sometimes farmers will actually take rotten pumpkins or things that have been used as a jack-o'-lantern and put them back into their pumpkin field because it's great when it decomposes to be a fertilizer for that field. Pumpkins are also an awesome food source for livestock. So if you have a farmer that's raising cattle or maybe chickens, those animals really love to eat the insides of pumpkins. Thanks so much for learning about pumpkins with me today. I am so excited for you to be able to see all of the pumpkins around us this fall, and hopefully you get to engage with some pumpkins soon as well.